Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night with County Executive. And I'm Arundel County Executive Stuart Pittman. And thank you for joining us because we have a very special guest with a very important topic. In fact, a really promising bit of news coming from Washington. And our guest is Senator Chris Van Hollen, one of our two Maryland senators, Ben Cardin being the other one. And what we're going to talk about is the COVID relief funds, the $900 billion that you've been hearing about in the news. And I had the pleasure of having a call with both of our senators, with some of our Central Maryland County executives just recently, and was hearing program by program estimates of what Maryland's going to get, some conversation about some of the challenges in getting that money to the people who need it. So the senator has a lot to say on the topic. Hopefully, we won't get too bogged down in the details of it, but it's really great news for this county. I just want to start by thanking you, Senator Van Hollen, for the $100 million that you got to Anne Arundel County in CARES Act funding. I know that was funding to state and local governments that the leadership of the Senate was opposed to at first, and you and Senator Cardin had to fight for that. And the fact that you got it in there just made all the difference over this last year to Anne Arundel County, and I know to all counties in the state, because we were able to deliver to the people who are being hurt the most as a result of that money. I mean, the businesses got the PPP funds. Never enough, but it was a lifesaver for many, I know. And the eviction prevention money has been, we were the first county in the state to get our program set up, and it's been very successful and important. And that unemployment insurance, even though that extra $600 a week ran out, it was a lifesaver for people. And now we're going to be able to get this extra $300 a week. So and then all of the other programs that we had the flexibility to implement at the county level has just made it a lot easier to get through this pandemic, and for our health department as well to be able to staff up for contact tracing and now doing the vaccinations that they're doing. So this next installment is something that we've waited for a long time. I know you fought for very hard, and just thank you for getting this done. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk about, the process of getting here, and I may jump in with some questions as we go. And then when we're done getting through the basics, we have some guests who are going to ask questions. Some of your elected officials. We've got the chair of our delegation, of our Anne Arundel County delegation to the General Assembly, Sandy Bartlett, will be with us. We have three council members, Council Chair Sarah Lacy, Councilwoman Allison Pickard, and Councilman Andrew Pruski. And then we also have three of our departments that are going to be have their hands on some of this money and helping people access it. Ben Burge, Director of Economic Development for the county, Kirk Murray from Workforce Development, and Kathy Koch, who runs Anne Arundel Community Development Services, that does our eviction prevention programs. And then finally, a representative from restaurants, James King from Titan Hospitality. And then we'll open it up from there. So tell us how you got this done and what you got for us, Senator.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. County Executive. Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you for your words. Most of all, thank you for your leadership in Anne Arundel County during this very difficult time for all of us, and to your team and to your delegation in Annapolis. Good to be here with Delegate Bartlett, and to your council members. And I want to thank them, and to the people of Anne Arundel County, because, one of the things that's been heartening even during these difficult times is to see Marylanders reaching out to their neighbors and extending a helping hand. And we're grateful for everybody pitching in, but it also requires good leadership. And thank you for being at the helm in Anne Arundel County. And I was pleased that, much earlier last year, over the spring, summer, we were able to pass the CARES Act on a bipartisan basis with that very important assistance to Anne Arundel County and to small businesses and families you mentioned. Then we had this long period, as you know, where we needed additional help, but for a variety of reasons, which we can get into later, we were not able to get a vote on in the Senate. The House passed two large packages. But the good news is at the end of the year, we were able to come together on a bipartisan basis and pass what I think is an important lifeline. It's far from perfect. It falls short in some significant areas that we can talk about, but it's an important bridge over the next 3 or 4 months into the new administration, which we sworn in on January 20th. And I think it will really help the country. It'll help Maryland, help Anne Arundel County. So I look forward to going over some of the specifics, and I'll try not to get bogged down. I think we have slides. What would a town hall be without some slides, just to help people sort of follow through some of the key areas? We have these broken down into 4 general areas. The first area is economic relief for workers and families. And I should say, Mr. County Executive and everybody listening, throughout this period of relief, we tried to focus on 2 things. One is defeating the coronavirus, COVID-19, by providing masks and PPE, as well as the funding for vaccines. And then separately, we've tried to deal with the terrible economic fallout and pain that's been caused. And so these 4 categories will address those different dimensions. Let me just start at the top here with rental assistance. This is actually something that was not part of the original CARES Act. The original CARES Act did have a moratorium on evictions, and this extends that moratorium through January 30th. And then, of course, the new administration through the Department of Health and Human Services can extend that further as necessary. But this bill also provides $25 billion nationally for rental assistance, because one of the big problems, of course, is that people, we've been able to protect many people by keeping them in their homes. That's a very good thing. But in many cases, their rental payments just keep accumulating. And at the end of the day, we could face a tsunami of balloon payments due and potential evictions. And so that's what this rental assistance fund is for. And it's one of the categories of assistance that actually will come directly to certain jurisdictions, including Anne Arundel County, because you have over 200,000 people. It's only a very rough estimate right now, but we expect the amount to come to Anne Arundel County to be in the range of $17 million. And there's some guidelines for the spending of the money, but it's for the use of the county to help keep people in their homes and prevent evictions. A second major category here on the slide are the direct payments. There was much discussion, of course, about these, and people will receive, and some have already received, $600 per person. It's a slight change from the earlier CARES Act because it's $600 per person here. As you know, we had a big discussion, and I supported pushing for higher amounts. We never were able to get a vote on that in the United States Senate, even though the House passed the legislation for the $2,000 per person payment. But the $600 per person payments go based on the same eligibility standards as the earlier CARES Act formulas did. And as you can see, we expect that to go to over 2.5 million Marylanders with about $2.6 billion in terms of dollar impact and help from those direct payments. Next item is the unemployment compensation. This is an essential safety net. And one of the things that we've done since the CARES Act is to expand eligibility to part-time workers, gig workers, people who are not covered by our traditional unemployment compensation program. That's one difference. And the other is the additional payments under the CARES Act. It was an additional $600 a week. Here it's an additional $300 a week on top of what somebody would receive under Maryland's unemployment system. I should say that Maryland is one of about 25 states that has adopted a work share approach, which I strongly support. It allows businesses that have been hit because of the coronavirus and therefore don't have as many customers and therefore don't have as big a need for as many employees. Instead of laying people off, you can scale back your employees to say 50% time, pay them 50% time, and then the unemployment compensation system would pick up some of that difference. That's a work share program for any small businesses or other employers who've not looked into it. I encourage you to do that. Nutrition assistance, we were able to increase the food nutrition, the SNAP program by 15% and provide additional help to food banks for families who are struggling under food insecurity right now. And then we have the transportation funding. We put this in this category of economic relief because so many workers, of course, rely on our transit systems to get to and from work. So it's important that we prevent big stoppages. Many systems were having to reduce their routes and their hours, as well as lay off employees. So this both helps keep transit workers on the job and helps these systems continue to provide service. And as you can see, Maryland will continue to get support through this, and they will go directly to different Maryland transit agencies. So why don't we go to the next slide? This is the slide.
I just want to throw in here though that this is because we don't have another allotment of CARES money that goes directly to counties. A lot of the programs that we funded will be, I think, backfilled or continued with some of these resources. So when you said food banks, my ears perked up. We've been investing huge amounts of money in getting food to our food banks and then to our distribution centers. And then I perked up on the work share as well. I mean, we'll be hearing from at least one restaurant owner during this, and that's what a lot have done is to try to keep their people working, scaled everybody's hours back. But when you can't get unemployment insurance for fewer hours, it really it almost makes it better to lay people off, and we don't want that to happen. So that's great.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned, Mr. County Executive, the benefit not just to the people, which is of course the most important thing in terms of food assistance, but it does help provide some relief to your budget, so then you can invest other funds in other important priority areas. And as we go through this, you'll see there are a number of instances like that. So one of the shortcomings of this bill was there's no direct assistance to state and local government. On the other hand, we did cover, as you say, a lot of the costs that would otherwise be incurred by Anne Arundel County.
Right.
So this is the small business piece, and I want to say that the PPP program, round one, was really important. It obviously got off to a rocky start in many places, and we improved it as we went over the year. And I think this is, in fact, the best version of this. It really is focused on the most needy small businesses. In this case, small businesses with 300 and under employees that have had a 25% reduction in one of the past quarters during the year. Also a provision to continue to support borrowers from the SBA who have had difficulty repaying their loans. There was also a continuation of this other lending program, the EIDL loan program. Something new in this version was the Save Our Stages provisions. Obviously, live venues, concert halls, movie theaters have been especially hard hit, as have those in the hospitality industry. And so, again, there are details on this. And then a very important focus on, the lenders to the smallest businesses, including many minority-owned businesses. And again, we can go into details. I should say that if you go to our website, the Senator Van Hollen official website, right at the top, if you hit that flashing red area, you'll get a lot more detail on each of these areas. Why don't we go to the next one?
Yeah, we were glad to see that community development institutions, especially because as we all heard, that if you had a great relationship with your bank, you were a larger business. You tended to get to the front of the line more quickly.
That's exactly right. And that
yeah,
was, that was one of the biggest problems at the initial rollout of the PPP program. Changes were made over time to that did make it more accessible. And of course, people could go to lenders who had not previously participated in SBA programs, but still, it was a bumpy ride. And I think this is the best version yet.
yeah.
So this slide again focuses on the beating the virus and supporting our healthcare community. And these are funds that will flow through the state. And we look forward to working with you to make sure that you receive them, since so much of the healthcare that's actually being provided, as you know, is through the public health departments at the local level. So it's really important that the state of Maryland make sure that you and your team receive these funds in a timely manner. And there are, as you can see, the state of Maryland is expected to receive over $385 million. This is for the testing and contract tracing, as we all know. The vaccine, it's on its way, but everybody needs to continue to take the precautions, and these are additional funds to help local jurisdictions and others with that effort. We all know what a toll the pandemic has had on behavioral health and mental health issues, and so these are funds in the bill nationally to support that effort. Again, they will flow through the state and state agencies. Healthcare providers, hospitals, community health centers, and others are in this category. And then importantly, for the vaccine deployment effort, Maryland will receive $75 million. This is another area where, as you know, I wish we'd seen more of a focused and comprehensive national plan. I know you're working very hard in Anne Arundel County to get the vaccine into people's arms as quickly as possible. And these are additional funds that are intended to come to you and the counties for that purpose. And then, of course, the National Institutes of Health did a lot of the research on the breakthrough with the Moderna vaccine and other vaccines. And I should say that this is on top of an annual appropriation, which this year came to over $42 billion for NIH. This is $1 billion directed specifically for continued COVID-19 research.
And I just want to say that I think it's appropriate for this money to go through the state to the counties, because our health department is really a part of the state health department. I mean, they're sort of quasi-county, quasi-state. But it is going to be a challenge. It's been a challenge with some of the earlier CARES money that was state to get it to work and to have input and to have a seat at the table for counties in planning how the funding is going to work and the distribution. So we're once again going to reach out, a lot of us county executives, particularly in Central Maryland, asking to open the lines of communication with the governor as this money comes in. We got a call on Saturday morning or an email to our health department saying, "Can you handle twice as many vaccinations this week as last week? Can you do 5,000 instead of 2,500?" And of course, the answer was yes. But it made a quick phone call saying, "You got another $1 million to help staff this? We've got to come up with a plan to start distributing it at twice the pace within 2 days." And it's been a rocky start. I think we'll get it together as we get moving. But this is going to force us to open the communication with the state, between the state and the counties, to make this thing work. So,
well,
keep
thanks.
informed.
Please keep us posted on how that's going, because the purpose of these funds is not to have them sitting in some account at the state level, but to make sure they get where they're really needed. So,
Yep.
I think we have one more slide. Right. So, as you mentioned, there are also funds that flow to other areas that typically you would be supported as well and continue to be supported by county and state funds. And that's especially true in the area of education. The broadband on here actually is putting in this category is a little bit miscategorized. I pushed very hard to get a continuation of the FCC E-rate funds, which do flow directly to schools. That was blocked on a partisan basis. I was disappointed there, but we were able to secure $7 billion for various broadband build out. Importantly, as you can see, 3.2 billion of that is designed to help lower income families with the costs of their plans. And this is obviously more important than ever for students who are now, obviously doing so much of their work online. And this is an ongoing issue with the digital divide, and look forward to working with you and others. It's been a priority of mine to address this issue. Child care facilities, as we know, need help and support. And so there's a funding for that. And you can see the amount that will come to the state of Maryland. Maryland schools, this is the K through 12 portion. Maryland is going to receive significantly more funds in this round than we did during the CARES Act round. And so this should definitely help support state and county budgets when it comes to schools. Then the governor, as in the CARES Act, the governor has of Maryland, so Governor Hogan will have $56 million in a very flexible funding pot for education purposes. It can be used for preschool, it can be used K through 12, it can be used for community colleges or 4 years institute. It can be used for broadband access. And we pushed the governor to use some of the last round for better connectivity. So we just be aware of that funding source that you should work to access. And then higher education institutions, like the CARES Act, there are funds that flow to our colleges, but Arundel Community College to 4-year institutions. Maryland has 4 HBCUs. And as you can see, Maryland collectively will get $315 million. So those are some of the highlights. I do want to say this has been a team Maryland effort. You mentioned, of course, Senator Cardin, a great partner on the Senate, and then Congressman Sarbanes and Anthony Brown and Ruppersberger, and really the whole delegation. The last thing I want to mention, Mr. County Executive, is when this bill passed, this coronavirus relief bill, it also included the next year's funding for the federal government. It included what we call the omnibus, which is full funding through September 30th. So the good news is, I know it's a low bar, but no government shutdown on the horizon. But I wanted to mention that piece because it also has ongoing funding for important Arundel County priorities. Fort Meade, of course, is a big beneficiary of a lot of the funds in that bill because of all the operations there, the Cyber Command, NSA, and other things. And of course, the Chesapeake Bay funding, even though the current administration has proposed to dramatically cut that budget every year on a bipartisan basis, and I want to stress in Congress it has been bipartisan, we had a record funding for the EPA Chesapeake Bay cleanup program, $87 million, and we're able to pass some new authorizing legislation. I introduced with Shelley Moore Capito, a senator from West Virginia, on engaging the fish and wildlife. It's called the Wilds Bill. So there was some progress there, and that's obviously so important to Anne Arundel County as we protect this treasure, and also because of the huge economic impact it has. So let me stop there. Happy to try and answer any questions. It's great to be with you, and I just want to thank you for hosting these weekly gatherings. I think it's so important that people can see what their government's up to.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for everything that you do. Can we bring that slide up, that last slide, for just 1 minute? Because I want to stress that this is actually a lot of money. That compared to what we did, in the CARES money in the county, there are some programs that need it badly, and we'll get it. It's not on this slide, but under eviction prevention, we were very proud of the fact that we managed to do $5 million for eviction prevention. But now we're talking about, you estimated 17 million. and this is the time we really need it. This is, when the moratoria end, this is when it's really going to be needed. So that's going to be great.
That's back on the first slide. Who I don't know who's doing the slides, but back on the first slide, but right at the very top there. And as you just said, Mr. Kennedy, this is money that will come directly to Anne Arundel. And again, don't hold me exactly to the 17 million. It's our back of the envelope calculation, but it will be significant. And as you said, it was not part of the CARES package. This kind of
right. We had counties had to decide if they were going to invest in that. We did, but the way I usually look at these is that Anne Arundel County's population is about 10% of the population of the state. And so we usually get about 10% of the money. Now the state will use some money as well and take it off the top, I'm sure. But if we go to that fourth slide, the numbers are pretty impressive too. I mean, on K through 12, our school system in Anne Arundel got 10 million in the first round of CARES funding, and they got it separate from our 100 million, and that was really, really useful, especially that's why all students have Chromebooks now, and some other great things. But I mean, we're probably talking at least 4 times that this time around for our school systems, and a lot of these numbers are just much bigger. There was I guess we don't have estimates for unemployment insurance and PPP for the county, but figure the 10% and it's looking pretty good for Anne Arundel County. So thank you. These are going to be big programs, and I think they're targeted to where we need the most. We know that the people who took the economic hit from this recession, unlike previous recessions, have been almost exclusively, the people at the bottom half of the economic scale. And the stock market's done pretty darn well for people who are investing. So thank you for all of that.
Well, so you're very right about that. I mean, this is, as they've said, the K-shaped recovery, right? I mean, there's some people for whom it was bounced back, and the stock market does not reflect the pain that so many, frontline workers and former frontline workers are experiencing.
Right. So let's see. I know we have some folks that want to jump in here, and I'm not sure if everybody's on, but I believe do we have Delegate Sandy Bartlett on? And if you're on, you get to go first. Chairwoman Bartlett, I should say, chair of our delegation. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You can you can unmute. You can turn on your camera if you can. Will your face show up if you turn on your camera?
Here we go.
There we go. Great. Good.
You know how it is. You got to find all the little buttons.
Right.
Senator Van Hollen, it's so good to see you.
You too, Madam Chair. It's great to be with you, and best wishes in your upcoming General Assembly session. Look forward to working with you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you. Please send our thanks to all the members of the federal delegation. We see the work that you all are doing, and we appreciate it. And we know, we need your help so that we can serve our constituents who also are yours. And to County Executive Pittman, thank you for hosting this tonight, because obviously we need your help too. We all work together. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to ask a quick question. And you touched on it possibly a little bit, but I just wanted to, and it might be a 2-part question. I was meeting with some constituents who are in the developmental disabilities community. And so their question was, or their need is for PPE. While they were concerned as to where they fall because of the fact that they are not, they have direct care workers who are with their clients 24/7. And they said that they were concerned about not being able to necessarily get a PPP loan because of their budget already being massaged in anticipation of ongoing COVID. So that wasn't an issue, but whether or not they would get that PPE for their workers. And so I think, and based on my reading of everything that you discussed and the slides that you showed today, that it'll either fall, I suppose, within the the state-by-state vaccine and testing and COVID-19 mitigation? Would it fall into that category?
Right. So I thought I heard you say two things. There's the PPE, and then there's the PPP program. You're focused on the testing and masks and yes.
Yes.
So that money, the monies for increased, testing and tracing, that will come through the state of Maryland, and so. They should be in touch with the state with respect to those funds. Then separately, as the slide indicated, for behavioral health issues,
Yes,
there are funds that will travel through the state, probably the Behavioral Health Administration, for those purposes. And hopefully they can access to the states. And I'm happy to work with you to try to facilitate, connecting them.
that would be great. I really appreciate that. And, because I know there's, first of all, just the amount of money, like County Exec said, this is great. It's great that there is this pot that we will be able to work with. And so we just want to make sure that it is, distributed throughout the state in the best manner possible, and and it goes to the folks who need it the most right away. So, so again, thank you for your work. Thank you for answering my question. I would love to work with your office. Your office is great. And I'll follow up with, actually getting the, if it's a reimbursement process or however it works, to the developmental disabilities community. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask my question.
Thank you. And I have some members of my team on here, so we'll make sure we follow up.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, the Senator's team always follows up. They're great.
Yes.
We have trouble keeping up sometimes on some of the constituent stuff. Thank you, Sandy. We have next Council Chairwoman, new chair of our council, Sarah Lacey. And then after that, just so you're ready, will be Allison Pickard. Is Councilwoman Lacey with us?
I don't see Councilwoman Lacey, so we can move on to Pickard for now.
All right. Our council chair until just a few weeks ago, we switched it at the end of the year. So former Councilwoman Pickard, there you are. Great. Welcome.
Well, good evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone who's here tonight for this conversation. Mr. Pittman and Senator Van Hollen, it's always a pleasure to see you, sir. And it's great to see Delegate Bartlett, of course. We have the state delegation picking up this next week, and we have a new administration starting this month. And we are still very much in the midst of this pandemic. It was very much illuminated for me, even heightened for me even more this past weekend. We had an apartment fire in Glen Burnie where 11 units were condemned and 23 people were displaced. And as I was there with the property management over the weekend, while we were dealing with an immediate need of people's loss of housing due to fire, I had the opportunity to speak directly with the property management regarding the eviction prevention funds that have been flowing through ACDS here in Anne Arundel County. And I think Kathy Koch is on this call as well. We've really been able to do amazing work with that. I'm very concerned and very excited. I'm very excited to see that we'll have 17 million some odd dollars to continue that, because as we've all stated already, we know this crisis has hit our families and individuals in that lowest quartile of income earners, and housing vulnerability has just been quite scary. I know, Senator, you and I share passion for affordable housing issues. I don't really have a question other than to say, well, thank you for your hard work and getting Anne Arundel County and the state and the country these funds, but also this crisis has also illuminated some cracks in our safety net and cracks in our ability to work together. So I'm trying to be very hopeful about the new the state legislative session starting, the new administration starting at the federal level. Are you hopeful that that vertical leadership and collaboration will continue as we fight our way through this? Because I feel like we still have a bit of a ways to go to get everyone through this crisis.
So first of all, it's great to see you even by Zoom, and thank you for your leadership and all your work on so many of these issues, including affordable housing and preventing evictions. So I believe at the state level, we will continue to work together as Team Maryland. Obviously, people have their differences on certain particular policies or implementation components of a plan. But I do believe overall, the state has done a good job. Although right now I'd like to see the vaccination effort proceed more quickly. And I know in Anne Arundel County you're working with it, and I think it's important that the state provide the county with the resources and help that it needs. You mentioned the swearing in, though, of the new administration on January 20th. And I'm absolutely confident that, President-elect Biden intends to work hard to reach out to try to unite the country behind a common agenda, because in addition to beating this pandemic, and that is obviously, front and center as a first order of business, we have to address, as you indicated, and the county executive did, the deep disparities that had been even further exposed by this pandemic, both healthcare inequities, income inequality, and the huge disproportionate impact of this pandemic and the economic fallout on lower income individuals, the racial disparities, whether it comes to health or access to distance learning and the digital divide. So many issues, but the digital divide is a good example of one that unites people, both in cities where people have not had adequate access to suburban areas, to rural areas. So I'm hopeful that we can find ways to come together. I know that the incoming President Biden, is going to be very focused on an infrastructure modernization plan, and writ large. I mean, beyond roads and bridges, which, are important, but transit, broadband, clean energy, infrastructure. And only time will tell. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have some common ground there. I will say that what we're going to witness tomorrow in the House and Senate is very troubling. The challenge to the vote that came in, but that will not be successful, and hopefully we will carry on.
Well, thank you, and I wish you well in the coming weeks, and I look forward to working with you and the rest of the folks on this call to serve, especially those that are most in need here in the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pickard. I'm glad you brought that up about the fire and the housing issues this weekend. We also have with us Councilman Andrew Pruski, who you know well, I know, and also a former chair, the only second term person on our council right now. So share your wisdom, Andrew, and any questions you have for the senator.
Senator Van Houten, it's always great to see you. And I just want to recognize, certainly as a person who represents Fort Meade, all the work that you've done. That area is the largest employer in the state of Maryland. And I'm hearing lately it could be at one point the largest military facility in the United States, obviously, if things continue the way they are. So thank you again. Thank you, the county executive, for holding these meetings and trying to bring people together. And that's what I think what we need right now is a federal, state, and local response. I think, a lot of people are frustrated because, they want to see the vaccine obviously move forward. We want to see businesses open, but really we need to be talking not about partisanship, about getting things done. And that's what I appreciate your presentation. You're bringing money that can actually make a difference to our restaurants, our employers, and other things, in the area. And I'm always going to put this plug in, that Fort Meade, certainly if they are looking for an infrastructure package to consider transit in that area, I know that's something, that you will consider. But I really want to talk about, and I'm glad that you mentioned the vaccine in terms of the release. I don't know, because I'm not obviously in the US Senate and you have a lot more information in terms of some of the committees and other things, but is it possible to encourage, and I'm sure, President Biden, as he comes on and we have the transition, to involve the US military? One of the things that people forget is they're the greatest in terms of logistics. And obviously, we have our CDC, we have other groups, but I don't know how much the full force of the federal government could be really put in action to really make a change. I mean, obviously there's supplies, there's other things that have to go with that, but I just want to ask that question because I frequently get that from people, particularly people who serve in my community. They've been throughout the world and the country, and they talk about how great the logistics of how our military can move, mass things and the quick movement and whatever else. I just want to leave that to you. But again, thank you for all that you do for our community. That we will continue to be your partner, and thank the county executive for doing that. But thank you again.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Pruski. And I remember when I was first running for Senate and coming to Anne Arundel County, you made sure front and center on the agenda was focused on Fort Meade, given the huge federal investment there and the jobs and job opportunities and training. So thank you for your leadership on that and so much else. Look, I think that the incoming administration is going to make a first order business. In fact, they've already started developing a more comprehensive federal plan for the distribution of the vaccine, but also the delivery and actually giving the vaccine. I don't know whether or not they've considered having the active duty military involved. As you know, different states have already, in some cases, including Maryland, begun to use the National Guard. And that obviously is an instrument that's available to people. And I want to thank the members of the Guard who are involved in that and much else. I'm happy to inquire on that matter. I do think we need to better deploy the people who are currently in the public health service, and many of us have put forward proposals to dramatically expand that effort. But certainly, I don't know, again, if they've considered the military, but we can certainly check that out.
Great. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you, County Executive. And we're looking forward to continue to be partners. We're all going to get through this, and we got to remain optimistic. And having you in Washington is a good thing. I appreciate it. You're always a good friend and partner. So thank you again.
I appreciate that. We are all in this together. Absolutely.
You bet we are. Thank you, Councilman Pruski. I love the way sometimes at these things, ideas come up through the levels of government, and sometimes they turn out to be brilliant ideas. So for the rest of the questioners, feel free to make suggestions to the senator too, so that he can take them back to Washington and talk some sense to folks. So next we have Ben Birch, our CEO of the Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation. Are you there, Ben? Yes, he is. Good. And you can even turn on your camera. All right, we see his face.
I'm sorry about that. I got cut off.
No, you're right there. Good.
Okay, great. Senator, thank you very much. And of course, County Executive Pittman, thank you very much for pulling this together and bringing us all on board. I don't have any good suggestions. I always run my good ideas through Andrew and let him funnel them up. No, but I want to make actually two quick comments before I get to my question. First of all, I think that you all did a brilliant job of doing a better job of targeting where a lot of the money's going. I know that we all went through the same thing on our end, where we did these programs to deliver money, and it was a little too open-ended and it was complicated, and we didn't hone in as well as we had liked. And I think you guys did an amazing job on getting it into the communities that really needed it. and getting really specific as to where the money's going, I think it'll have a huge impact. So congratulations on that. Also, I want to extend an appreciation. I believe there was an adjustment in one of the tax codes as to who's eligible. I think that if I heard correctly on another meeting, that chambers of commerce will be able to be eligible for some funding. There was a lot of concern from the chambers. We work very closely with them. They're key partners in working in economic development. So on behalf of them, thank you for opening up that eligibility.
Sure.
My question, I want to go back to something you brought up that you were talking about with Council Member Pickard, which is the transition. We've been reading a lot in the newspapers about some of the difficulties that maybe the incoming administration is having with the outgoing administration in terms of providing documentation, providing information. And when we get down into the nuts and bolts of administering these programs, do you foresee any problems we're going to face as the old regime is reluctant to share information? And specifically, we had issues, as you know, with the SBA in getting money out, getting it in the right places. I'm just hoping this transition doesn't further gum up that process.
So, first, thanks for mentioning the improved focus of a lot of these programs. I think that's right, and I think we learned over time, and especially the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, and as you just mentioned, this latest version does include what we call 501c6s, which are those chambers of commerce that were left out of the first round. And also, as I said, better targets the funds for small businesses to the truly needy and hardest hit, as well as lending institutions at the grassroots level of communities. So with respect to the, unfortunately, we're not seeing a smooth handoff here. That's an understatement. With respect to the outgoing and the incoming administration, with respect to a lot of the federal agencies. I will say that the problems have been most severe in one, the Defense Department, which obviously is not great for national security, the level of communication between the incoming transition team trying to, get on top of things and ongoing efforts of the Defense Department, that's been stymied. The other major roadblock has been at the the Office of Management Budget, which of course is the wing of the executive branch, the White House, that deals with overall budgeting. As to other agencies like the SBA, I haven't heard of any particular problems. I will say as this unfolds and more than new funds go out, please let us know if you're encountering difficulties. Like all of you, we all share the same constituents, people who are listening in on this town hall, and whether they call someone at the county level or the state level, the federal level, we do work hard with you and your team to try to make sure that we get them the information they need, whether it's a worker, a family, or a small business. So let us know if you're hearing, small businesses that are eligible for the next round of PPP and are having trouble accessing it, let us know.
Will do. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And I want to thank our whole team in economic development, because we kept coming at them with new programs. Normally they work with businesses to help them with loans, and but with our CARES money, they did a $3 million child care program for child care centers and home child care as well, assistance. And now we're hearing there might be 13 million. So get ready, Ben. Maybe it won't go through economic development. We'll see. Maybe it'll be direct, but and they did
we have their bank account, so
right. We know how to do it now.
Right.
And $10 million to restaurants. We did a $5 million initial program, customer and employee protection program, grant program, and so they've been great. And then this next person is going to going to speak up. Kirk Murray is from Workforce Development. And I especially want to thank the team over there with Kirk, because one of the things we found is it's very difficult for a local government to get money into the hands of the people who need it most. And what we had to do, we had to jump through a lot of hoops to figure out how to do this legally with our CARES funds. We created the Humanitarian Relief Fund, where we were giving out $500 gift cards so people would have money where they could make their own decisions about whether to pay rent, whether to pay for food, whatever their expenses were. And that was a logistical challenge. Kirk can attest to that. And I was out there with them on last Saturday or the Saturday before that, handing out gift cards, and we have more of that coming. So thank you. Kirk's on the front lines with the folks who need the support the most.
Well, thank you, Mr. County Executive. Thank you for inviting me tonight. And Senator Van Hollen, thank you for your leadership. We are very lucky to have you representing the great state of Maryland in the U.S. Senate. You know, these extended unemployment benefits come at the right time. I know we were getting a lot of calls. The county exec's office was getting a lot of calls, people worrying about their benefits coming to an end. So this extension, this additional $300 is definitely going to come in useful. As the county exec mentioned, you know, we've given out, you know, over 4,500 cards, $500 gift cards to Anne Arundel County residents. And you should see their faces. They were so delighted to get this additional assistance. I mean, you know, people are hurting now, and this additional assistance is coming at the right time. So thank you for your leadership and Team Maryland's leadership for this. My question is something I know that's very passionate, very important to you. As the vaccine rolls out and cases start decreasing and the economy starts to open back up again, there are going to be a lot of Marylanders and Anne Arundel County residents that have been out unemployed for a very long time. And wanted to know, are there any discussions of assistance for long-term unemployed to help them transition to a new career? I know last year you introduced legislation, the Long-Term Elimination Act. How is that legislation coming along? And will we see some additional funding that can come to workforce boards to help our clients to retool to get back to work?
Well, first, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. You've got a great workforce team, and thank you for being such a champion on these issues. And as you said, the unemployment insurance piece, first of the CARES Act and now this most recent legislation, has been absolutely vital, both in terms of the additional weekly amounts, but also, as you know, expanding eligibility to people who are not part of the traditional system. And I do think going forward as a country and as a state, we have to think about reforming our unemployment system, because it was built around an economy where we had we didn't have as many independent contractors and gig workers, right? And so they were left out of that system. Now, the other big issue, and thank you for mentioning it, this is a passion of mine, and you know, we've met with you and your team to discuss these issues, and I want to thank you for the support you've given to my staff as we work through these issues, is eliminating long-term unemployment, which even before the pandemic hit was a severe problem. There were over 1 million Americans long-term unemployed, and by definition, these are people who want to work, who are looking for work, want to contribute and help their families, but can't find a job. And now we're up to 4 million Americans who are long-term unemployed. And even as the economy improves, most experts, as you know, because you're one, are predicting that we're going to have a really sticky problem. And there are a lot of people who've been out of the workforce for a long time that want to get back in, but won't be able to. So we are, and I've been in regular conversations with the incoming Biden administration about including, funds for supported employment. And that can be working with private sector entities or nonprofit entities or public sector entities to essentially provide some wage subsidy for people who have demonstrated that they're, looking for work and can't find it, because my view is, if you're out there wanting to work, that we should be able to, put your skills to use and also help build those skills. And that's part of the design of the legislation. So yes, we're going to be pushing very hard to try to address this issue. Thanks.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're talking Kirkland's language there. He's he's ready to roll. Let's get it done. All right. And so last of our government folks, before we get on to business, is Kathy Cope from Arundel Community Development Services, who's run a lot of our programs that we've created ourselves through the CARES funding that you contributed, that you passed down, I guess I should say. She probably won't have a chance to go through all the programs that they've been running, but I know the one that has been probably the most important and in some ways the most complicated has been the rental assistance and eviction prevention. So I know you're excited about more money coming, Kathy, but
I'm near to tears. 17 million. Senator Van Hollen, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I've been a fan for many years. And thank you to my county executive and my elected officials. I'm very fortunate to work for a very supportive government. But thank you for the help on the stimulus bill. But something that you mentioned right at the beginning, which was so important, and is the fact that this was an appropriation bill. You passed up an appropriation bill before that in December. Being somebody who's lived through, I administer federal dollars, community development block grant dollars, the home dollars, and emergency solution programs, which I'm always so thrilled the fact that my senator knows what those things mean and what they stand for. He knows what CDBG means, and that you level funded in the appropriation bill those very important programs. So I cannot thank you enough for that. And somebody who's been through years where we've waited for a budget to get passed to February or March, the difference it makes on a local level is just huge. Can't thank you enough for that. So as our county executive has said, we had a rental assistance program going since April. And we've done over 1,150 rental payments to landlords on behalf of clients. And I just want to confirm a couple different things. And like you said, we did $5 million and we've been struggling. What we've seen is that we're getting more applications as the courts move toward opening. We get more calls, not less calls. We're up to probably 15 to 20 calls, 20 applications a day. And we were struggling with how to target those funds, how to make sure we're getting them to the neediest, how to have buy-in from the landlords, and the fact that it's 17 million. You just made it. That's really going to make, when people like to say that the stimulus bill wasn't big enough, and I see that and I say that's going to make one hell of a difference. So thank you. But we struggle. I think I just want to confirm the fact that some of the money can be used for case management. I believe I've heard that, and case management is so crucially important. Okay. And then I believe that includes, especially as the courts move toward opening, legal assistance so that we can help our clients through the legal maze.
Yes.
I believe that's okay. And then the other thing, and maybe this is something that even your staff, there's a lot of discussion people are having on the national level, is that as we make these payments to the landlord, what kind of commitments we should be asking for from the landlords. And I think as we move to more long-term assistance, that's the kind of things we're going to be looking at as we go forward. And so that's just what kind of documents, what kind of commitments from the landlords, but also the other thing is documentation from the actual renters in proving that they have been COVID affected. And people no longer have those layoff letters that they got back in March. We are in crisis. Finding a piece of paper can sometimes be kind of difficult. So that's the other thing that we're looking at and trying to figure out exactly how we might put a couple of those things together. So those are the kinds of things we're looking for guidance on.
Well, so first, thank you for all that you've been doing with the resources that the county received through CARES and other resources. And as you said, this is such an important issue. And I was glad. One of the things we fought for that was new in the CARES Act was, in this most recent bill is this funding. And yes, I think the funding can be used for the purposes that you just mentioned. I'm going to make sure that my team follows up to confirm that. And it is very flexible. I mean, there's some guidelines because it's a new program. You know, we did want to give, you know, the counties, Anne Arundel County and others, a fair amount of latitude in how to design these programs. As you said, I think in the first instance, the funds would go to the landlord. Landlords can choose not to participate if for some reason they won't. I think most will want to participate directly. Then the monies would go to the tenant. I think counties again can, you know, make certain, you know, policies surrounding that transaction. But I'm glad you mentioned the landlords as well, because obviously we want to make sure that no one is evicted, but not every landlord is a big multinational, you know, company. A lot of them are small landlords that have their own bills to pay and creditors who are asking them. So we want to keep people in their homes, but we also want to make sure that everybody in that stream of you know, also you know, doesn't end up, you know, having bills that they can't pay as well. So, but I look forward to working with you and hearing how you design this. Again, there's some parameters, but there's a lot of flexibility given to local jurisdictions.
Which I think is one of the golden keys of this funding is that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Kathy is way too polite to say it, but the reason, part of the background to some of those questions about what commitments from landlords is that there's a state money that came through to counties that we also have tried to use, but it's been very difficult too, because there's very well-intentioned restrictions that say that the landlord has to make a commitment that they won't evict for a certain number of months after the assistance was made. And if the landlord goes back on it, then the agency is held liable. And so a lot of counties aren't getting that money out. So we're working with the state trying to resolve those things. And we just want to make sure that there's the flexibility to make those kinds of adjustments. And this is true of all new programs. It's
Right.
and it's always important to listen to the people on the ground because they have those experiences.
And I'm glad Kathy mentioned those other programs that, you know, the ongoing CBG programs and home programs. And thank you for, you know, being caretakers of those funds too.
We couldn't do it without you. And the fact that you know those programs makes me so proud, my senator. Thank you.
Thanks.
We are, wow, it's already 7 o'clock and the polls just closed in Georgia, I assume, and I know you're really eager to get to to your television set. You probably have interviews.
I have a lot of incoming texts asking me what the exit polls are, but I don't have them right now.
Right. Can we do one more though?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do one last. We unfortunately won't get to some of the ones that came in on Facebook, but I think a lot of those questions have been answered already. So we have James King from Titan Hospitality. They manage a number of restaurants, and I know Mr. King has been working, has had a rough year and has been working to keep his people working and keep his businesses alive. So thanks for joining us, Mr. King.
County Executive, thank you so much for the invitation. It's greatly appreciated. Senator, on behalf of all small businesses across the state of Maryland, thank you for your efforts and this next stimulus bill. I know we have all been waiting for weeks and months on end, waiting for this next round of support and help keep our people employed. So can't tell you how happy we all are to see that help's on the way. And we appreciate all of your efforts. So thank you so much for you and the entire delegation that's, I know, been at the forefront fighting for this for our industry. So thank you. I guess 2 quick questions. The WorkShare program, I share the county executive's comments on that. That sounds like a phenomenal program. And I'll dig into that. That's the first I've heard of it. So I'm excited to hear that there's more assistance out there. I think for most of the industry, you know, we have decided that, you know, for us, it's just about survival. Let's get through this and live to fight another day. I guess the first question that we get constantly and we talk about is when will the PPP fund applications be available for us to start submitting and start seeing some of that flow down. The second question is for the EIDL loans that were given out, You know, a lot of us have taken on tremendous amounts of debt over the last 10 months. We've taken home equity line of credits and cashed in kids' college funds and high interest loans and charged credit cards and all of those things necessary to do what we have to survive and stay alive. The EIDL grant program or loan program was great, but it's added more debt onto each restaurateur. And I guess the question is that something that perhaps you would look at as converting to a grant down the road for certain industries that have been hit the hardest? You know, obviously we'll do whatever we need to do to survive and stay alive, but compounding it with more debt makes it makes that light at the end of the tunnel go further and further away, as we know we have to accumulate that. So just a thought to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, let me thank you because as you know better than anybody, you're in the line of business, the restaurant business, that's part of the hospitality industry that's been just hardest hit. And you know, I will tell you, I'm on the phone regularly with you know, small business owners and especially restaurant owners, bar owners from the state of Maryland, and that has really helped us, guided us as we've tried to shape some of these programs. And I do encourage you to look into the WorkShare program because there may be benefits there that could be helpful. And before I get to the EIDL program, you know, on the PPP program, there is some now expedited effort to forgive the first parts of the loan, the $150,000. And also, I don't know if you had an SBA loan previously, because those, there's significant loan relief for SBA loans, people who had them prior to this, to COVID. With respect to the EIDL program, there have been a number of changes. I'm going to have my team follow up with you to give you some of the specifics. I mean, there are grant components. I will say that they're pretty, they're micro, well, they're I think $10,000 grants. And there are other aspects to the EIDL program that have been designed to really focus on small businesses and those hardest hit. So as to the specifics there, I will have someone, you know, follow up with you tomorrow to try to answer any questions you've got about the new design. As to when we were pushing the SBA hard, and I want to also thank my colleague, Senator Cardin, of course, who's been involved with this program from his position on the Small Business Committee. We're pushing them very hard to expedite this. And since they've already done it, in one fashion, we hope that it's a smoother launch than the last time. Were you able to benefit from the previous PPP program?
It was an absolute lifeline for us.
Good.
It kept about 210 employees employed for about 6 months. So it was phenomenal. We're very excited to see it again. And as we head into the colder months, looking to extend how we live through the next 90 days, it's another lifeline that we're very excited about.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'll have someone follow up with you tomorrow on the EIDL program.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. King. And we should, I think we've covered everything that I see in here and some of the questions. There were some questions about vaccines. Next week, our Tuesday night is going to be specifically about vaccinations, and we're going to have Dr. Kalyana Raman and some of his team there talking about that. There was a question about, you know, loan versus grant, and it is that first 150,000 is quite easy to get forgiven, right? So that it becomes grant on the PPP. And we were asked when those funds are going to be available, and I know our economic development team is going to be helping to get the word out and helping to facilitate wherever they can, connecting businesses with lending institutions to be able to get those applications in. So I want to thank you. You have a very difficult job, and I know you have a lot at stake tonight and a lot at stake today in Georgia over the leadership of the Senate. It would be wonderful if you could get bills brought before the Senate for a change. It's been a while, I know.
Yeah.
things done.
We have a very tall stack of bills that have passed out of the House, which I think would have enjoyed the support of the overwhelming majority of people of Anne Arundel County and the state of Maryland.
Yeah, but I've always loved your attitude. I mean, despite how difficult it is, you know, you always recognize, as we do at the local level, that there's common ground, that party is not everything, and that you know, on most issues, most of us actually agree. It's crazy.
It's true. I've been able to get past a number of bipartisan bills, and I was pleased to help break loose one of the big impasses at the very end of this process that threatened to bring it all down, having to do with the powers of the Federal Reserve. And we were able to. I worked with Senator Toomey on issues in the past, and we were able to put together an agreement that I think worked for everybody. So, but I appreciate that, and I appreciate as you and I have spoken about before, at the local government level, it's all about solving problems, and we need to adopt that same attitude at the state and federal level. So. This is a new year. We're turning a new page, and hopefully the country can come together and solve some of our really big challenges. Thank you for your leadership in Anne Arundel and throughout our state.
Well, thank you. Good luck tonight. We've got our fingers crossed, and we'll stay in touch. And I know our constituents will be in touch with your office on a lot of these issues. So thank you for all.
Absolutely. Take care, Stuart.
All right. Good evening, everybody.